All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Business Relationship Sports with CA and KJ. We are your hosts, CA and KJ.
Good to see you, my guy.
No doubt, it's mutual.
No doubt.
So, for those of you who haven't already, you can subscribe. You can find this at Business Relationship Sports with CA and KJ on YouTube. That's the primary platform that we're making this happen. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you drop a comment in there. Let us know what things you enjoy hearing, what things you want to hear more of. Engage with us, and we'll engage back with you. So, getting straight into it today, it's 2024. It's late November. We're getting closer to the holiday season. Things around the country are picking up in terms of sports, and things in terms of school are slowing down a little bit. So, athletes here who are younger, they're going to be getting out of school pretty soon. Those people who are in business are going to be doing their holiday situation. But sports has not slowed down. Sports has really picked up. When we just finished the World Series, the Summer Olympics just finished up in Paris, and now heading into this winter season, basketball is getting rolling, football is mid-season, and there's a lot to look forward to. So what we're going to start with today is basketball, getting into the NBA. Now that we're a couple weeks in, we've gotten to see some life from some teams and getting to see who's doing their thing. So we'll start with the Los Angeles Lakers. This rookie, Dalton Knecht, has just been absolutely tearing it up. And a lot of people feel like he's showing signs of obviously being a J.J. Redick prodigy. They wear the same number that J.J. wore when he was playing with the Clippers. He's a shooter. They're already running plays for him. The other night he scored, his career high in points.
37?
Ended up hitting, 37 points. Ended up hitting
crazy.
9 threes. He's been playing big time. I believe I saw a stat that over the last 5 games he's shooting 67% from the three-point line, which naturally he'll come back to earth a little bit, I'm sure. But 67% over 5-game stretch, that's just unheard of and unreal. So kudos to him, coming in with the confidence, doing his thing right away. So what's your opinion of what it takes for somebody who's a rookie to be able to have success so early in the league?
One, I think, is just obviously the confidence piece.
Yeah.
Like, you have to come in and be more confident in yourself than anybody else. Mm-hmm. But also, it's just being able to quickly adjust to the environment, but also being able to quickly adjust to the coaching and the speed of the game almost instantly. And the funny part is it's super rare. Mm-hmm. And then the other side of it is you have no idea who's going to do it. Right. All these rookies are going to come into the league and they're like, oh, the higher round pick is going to make the instant impact. And maybe they end up like a bench player. They score like 7-8 points. Mm-hmm. So you don't know who's going to do it. But the nice part is when you come in, you can adjust pretty quickly and you're confident, then you're going to end up playing well early. And he's played ridiculously. And the interesting part is obviously the Bronny James situation was like overshadowing him for a long time, and then he like pops out of it, and you kind of saw glimpses of it in summer league.
Yeah, well, naturally, like any league in the world, you have to have the opportunity in order to show your stuff. So you have to have a coach who's going to be willing to take a chance on you, a coach who's going to be willing to put you in the game, and then it's going to be your responsibility to start showing signs of life. So early in the season, right, J.J. Redick was giving him some burn, putting him out there here and there in spots. But now he's literally closing games. He's on the court at the end of the games, and they got him and Austin Reeves, on the court together. And if there's any coach who's going to make it happen, naturally it's going to be J.J. Redick because he can see like what the value of a spot-up shooter is. But the thing that people don't realize about Dalton Knecht, he's got a big body. In that same game he scored 37, he was catching lobs, that were thrown from behind the three-point line. He's physical. He can dunk. He can get in space defensively. So, really big pickup for the Lakers. They've felt that way all along, but I don't know if anybody saw this. 37 points in a game.
I didn't see it.
Showing that kind of capability, like running plays for him, it's big time. So that, along with Anthony Davis, has been playing a season so far that's had him in the MVP running. He's averaging over 30, and they've still got LeBron James doing his thing, about to be 40 years old. And the rest of the team, they're doing well. So they went through a little bit of dip on the road, but at home, outside of the loss that they just suffered, I believe that was last night, their first loss at home.
Yeah.
In the last minute, right? And Anthony Davis had a chance to close it with 2 free throws. Yeah. But they've been doing really well with that. So NBA looking like, do you think the Lakers can make a run at the Western Conference Finals? What do you think? After seeing a little bit more now.
Lakers are always my team, but it's still like they got to be able to push that through the season. And also, once again, it's a conversation of health.
Yeah.
We've got like an aging Davis. We know Davis has a tendency to get hurt. LeBron James is obviously his age, 38. So it's like, can they stay healthy and then also keep the team chemistry. If they can do that, like my expectation is that they minimum go into the playoffs, but it's like, can we keep our health and good team chemistry through the playoffs in order to get to Western Conference Finals, which is going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at. If we can keep those things, then without question.
Yeah, the league is so stacked right now. I mean, every team that you look at has players who can be at that all-star caliber. Every team that you look at has people who can score, upwards of 20 points a night. And it's really just, like you said, a decision on what the chemistry situation is going to be, who's going to play well with each other, who's going to be healthy, and who's going to be able to make the stretch run. So this is where coaching really comes into play. I look at the J.J. Redick acquisition, and I was actually a fan all along of it happening because I understand what value it can bring to have like a young, hungry coach who knows the game. People talk about JJ knows X and O's, will he be able to do X, Y, and Z? And I go, if you've watched his personality all along, he's done a great job adapting to whatever situation he's in. Even as a player in the NBA, he showed to be a person who's consistent with his work ethic, consistent with his statistics, and those things generally yield themselves to somebody being a good coach. But the respect piece that people talked about early on was never in question for me. I believe that players are going to respect somebody who has a good IQ about the game, and seems to know what they're talking about. And he seems to be a player's coach, like he's got a sternness to him, but the players seem to respect him and they seem to like what he's bringing to the table. So, we're going to find out. I mean, he's definitely done some dancing with the lineups, and D'Angelo Russell, he's had to check him a couple times with like effort and everything, but he seems like he's starting to bring more to the table and then a different role. They're running multiple point guards. They have LeBron James running point guard. They have Austin Reeves running point guard, Gabe Vincent, and D'Lo as well. So it's interesting. I mean, their team is not one-dimensional right now, which last year I believe that was the biggest knock on them, is like they were a little bit too easy to figure out, a little bit too predictable. And now they don't have that. I mean, you have a rookie scoring 37. Austin Reeves can go off any night. LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Rui Hachimura does well. And once they get their bench going, if they can get Jared Vanderbilt coming in, making some plays, Cam Reddish has done well. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
How they do. So other teams in the NBA right now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, the Sixers have not been doing well. Joel Embiid missed a lot of the beginning games in the lineup early on. Paul George ended up getting hurt, and even when he wasn't hurt, they weren't winning. Tyrese Maxey, I believe, was hurt. And so things have not gone well for the Sixers early on, who are hoping to have a really big year. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. The Paul George situation is super concerning. I think it's like 2 hyperextended knees in the past 2 months or something like that, and it's like, you need these players to be in the game in order for you guys to stay competitive. And then also the Joel Embiid situation. Like, once again, it's a conversation of injuries, but also, once again, it's a conversation of team chemistry.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard to have team chemistry if you've got players who are kind of straying.
Right.
But then also you have injuries, which means they're also not in the game.
Right.
So until they get everybody healthy and everybody decides to play together, is going to be pretty shitty in the beginning. Yeah,
it's tricky. I mean, you have pro sports people who don't play pro sports sometimes don't often understand how important just the simple concept of availability is, right? Like, you can go into coaching and fans and who's playing at home and who's playing there and who's playing hot and who's playing this, but availability is the primary thing. If your team who you'd like to be playing is not available, your chances are going to go down quickly, regardless of who you're going against, because you're going against good teams. It's not how it was in 1960, NBA. It's different now.
Right.
Every team has players. Every team can win on any given night. So before, where you might look at, we're playing the Hornets tonight, we're playing the Hawks tonight, we're playing the Jazz tonight, this is going to be a rollover. Now it's like any team you play has good players and can win. If you slip for half a quarter. If you slip for half a quarter, any team can win. Anybody can shoot threes. Anybody can dribble drive. Anybody knows the plays. So that's the big deal to being able to have these marquee players on a consistent basis. And so that leads into this concept, which is a sensitive topic, because I'm not a person who ever wants to take money out of anybody's pocket. If anything, I want to try to add it. But it's a conversation worth having. The fact that NBA players get paid what they get paid, is there an argument in your mind that you should get paid for how often you play? Or are you more of the thought of, no, based on the cachet that you bring to the table and what you've done previously is what you should get paid for, and then from there, how available you are, unavailable you are, is more irrelevant? What's your opinion on that situation?
I don't know. It's getting to the point that, obviously this isn't football, but you're seeing NBA players start to be more injured like NFL players. And so, obviously, there's there's no clause in like an NFL contract where if you're injured then you're out, but like NFL contracts can be like cut very quickly just because of how injuries are set up. So if you're starting to see percentages of injuries go up immensely, there probably should be some type of clause built into the contract where they're like, okay, well we'll drop your salary, especially like in a Paul George situation or a Kawhi Leonard situation. I think Stephen A. Smith said they both only played like 50% of their careers because they've been injured the other half of that. So it's like you're getting paid all this money and you get to sit half the season. Like, what a life, you know?
Yeah, it's really tricky because you don't want to set up a scenario where somebody is trying to rush back too early from an injury because they're not going to get paid without playing type situation. Like, you know, I have to feed my family, I got to support my lifestyle type mentality, so I'm going to rush back from an injury and potentially add on to it.
Yeah.
Like, you've gone through an injury, I've gone through an injury. Like, there is time that's necessary for some injuries.
Yeah.
But you also run to that other side where if Joel Embiid, and not even to name specific people, if there's people in the league who are getting paid a really high salary but not playing, and the fans are losing out on it, the game's losing out on it, the team's losing out on it, the fact that those people are still able to make the money because of what happened previously is a challenging concept, especially when it's multi-year contracts. It's different if it's like, hey, we're going to reevaluate this quarterly, and we'll get to the renegotiation table quarterly, or hey, this is what you did. We'll guarantee you this quarter, and the next quarter, if you didn't play 10 games, we're going to dock you in this quarter because of X, Y, and Z. A situation like that could make sense to me, but obviously it's a little too tricky when you're dealing with like really big business. You're dealing with a lot of sponsorships, you're dealing with a lot of fan money, a lot of TV money, and things have to be guaranteed to continue to increase the value of the league. So for those people who don't understand where the money comes from if these players get paid, a lot of it is TV money. It's a TV show going, hey, we'll pay you this much to put your brand and your sport on our network. And then this much is going to go to the players, this much is going to go to broadcast, this much is going to go to these other places. But players are obviously driving the league. They're the ones who people come to watch. They're the things that people come to see. But if you're not playing, if you're not being seen, it creates a tricky situation. So that would be an interesting question for the fans to drop in the chat and in the comments. How you feel about that? You know, how do you feel about the situation of somebody making $10, $20, $30 million a year and not having a mandatory minimum on how many games they have to play? Or what the situation is if they're not able to play.
And there's that the 65 game rule
for MVP, right?
Yeah, for MVP awards. And like end of season awards, which would literally immensely grow your salary because there's usually those options in your salary if you get like a all NBA player or all defensive, something like that, and you got to play a certain amount of games in order to do that, which I don't know, to a certain extent I'm like, yeah, there should be like some kind of playing minimum because last time I checked, all the old school players always played.
Right.
And that's what happens. All old school players are like, yeah, we played this amount all the time. Like, why is there a bigger issue now?
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game is faster and harder and more athletic and all these things. However, there's also better things to maintain the body. There's also better technology, better science that way. So it may even out that way. So I'm going to give you 5 names of NBA players, and I want you to give 1 or 2 sentences on your perspective of either where they are or how they are. So first one, Victor Wembanyama.
Unstoppable within a year or two. Completely unstoppable within a year or two. Period.
Bam. All right. Buddy Hield. Golden State Warriors.
Found a system that fits him perfectly and literally is raining threes.
LaMelo Ball, Charlotte Hornets.
I got a lot more to say about him, but that's because I've been watching the Ball family. We've been watching the Ball family since they
Young
were
days.
in high school, but I thought LaMelo was going to be the best Ball, brother when he was making half-court shots when he was 15 years old. I was like, he's the best shooter. Shooters are going to go in the NBA and stay in the NBA. And now that he's taller and better, I think he's going to end up being easily, if he's not, one of the best point guards in the NBA for years to come, period.
Sure, for sure. Okay, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Milwaukee Bucks.
Same thing, like a Wembanyama, completely unstoppable. And now committed to shooting, which I'm really excited about because he couldn't shoot before. And now that he can shoot, he's like making threes in mid ranges, like opening up his game to be even more unstoppable, which is what I like about him.
Okay, last one. Jalen Brunson, New York Knicks.
Brunson, man, the guy is shifty.
Yeah.
Shifty, smart, can see the court, can move around, but also he's like ice in the veins player.
Yeah.
Like wants to be the guy who's shooting the shot at the end of the game, like ton of confidence, which is why I like him.
Yes. Yeah, with each one of those players, going through, you see people in every sport, right? Different heights, different sizes, different weights, everything. You see players like Giannis Antetokounmpo, which are really thick and tall and athletic. You see players who are smaller, like Jalen Brunson, who don't run the fastest 40 and aren't, anywhere above 6'1".
Yeah.
But, both 40-point game scorers,
Yeah.
Like, so it's proof that in sports there's so many ways to be successful. There's so many ways to figure it out. What you have to have that's symmetrical, like you said, you have to have the mind. You have to have the mind that's going to say, this is the direction I'm going. I'm going to make it happen regardless of what's in front of me. So big note to the youth out there. So closing up on basketball, as you look at the transition now from college to NBA, college has gotten a lot of flack because it's in this situation now where a lot of people feel like it's pay to play. The college game was largely built on school spirit, camaraderie amongst the team, growing as a person. People, players, coaches, parents, community felt for a long time like players were being undervalued. Universities were making all this money off the players' name, image, likeness, and so that needed to change. And so the NCAA made this drastic change. They didn't scale it out. They flipped the script quick and said, okay, players, we're gonna let you get paid whatever you want, basically, and it's gonna be legal. And so now it's created this situation where college is, I would say, even more of a pro sport than pro sports because there's no rules on it.
Yeah.
And it's created this whirlwind where there are good, talented players who are going, but there's definitely not as much camaraderie. There's definitely not much talk about the individual teams and now more the individual player. And it's causing some of the best coaches, to name a few, Mike Krzyzewski, the Virginia coach as well, to leave the game because they're not able to handle the way it's gone now, and they don't really like what it looks like now. You see it on the football side with Nick Saban and people like that who've openly admitted, I'm essentially leaving because the game has changed in this way. So there's pros and cons to all situations, of course. What is your overarching opinion now from how college is going to transition to the NBA? What does what's happening with the college game and recruitment and NIL and name, image, likeness, how does that transition now to the professional ranks?
I'm completely with college players being paid. And I want to put that on record 100% since I was a kid, especially with football, because NCAA and the schools make ridiculous amount of money for showing college football. And I was like, why aren't these players really getting anything for it? And as you know, I have a cousin who played in college, and he was like, yeah, I was getting maybe $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't really get anything for this. And I was like, bro, you're literally the product, and I'm sure that your school and program is making millions for you guys going to the bowl this year. And so I'm happy that even if it's a small percentage, the players are actually receiving a financial benefit. And for me, the way that I see it, I'm like, this has always happened. If you go overseas, there are players who are 15, 16 years old playing pro ball getting paid, right? So to me, this isn't much different than that situation. The effect on the pros is that you might have some kids who stay in college longer,
right?
Because they're like, I'm already getting paid. I like being in college. I don't need to go pro yet, which I think you're starting to see a lot more on the women's side because the college women's players can get paid more than WNBA players.
Yes.
So maybe it might be different on the men's side, but I'm with it. And I think if you're going to have all this money that colleges are making, why wouldn't the product be paid for? Because last time I checked, the product usually always gets paid for the entertainment.
Right. Yeah, I find it's a really tricky time in sports right now because you have so many sides who are just at opposites, right? Obviously, the universities and the coaches and those two things, the universities and the coaches really wanted to hold on, to the way it was, and the players were pushing to get it to change. And my biggest opinion on the whole thing is there has to just be rules. Anything has to be governed by rules. It's like
Parameters.
the things I don't want to see are in football, for example. UNLV, the guy who transferred there for quarterback, ends up going, hey, he commits to a handshake deal or whatever the case. Obviously, I wasn't in the room, but handshake deal. Hey, we'll pay you X amount, $100,000, call it, round number, to come play here for this year. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to happen in these installments, whatever. Goes through the first 2 games. Hey, I'm not getting the money that you said you'd give me. Goes to the 3rd game. I'm not getting the money you say you give me. If it doesn't happen by the 4th game, I'm going to redshirt because I have 4 games to declare redshirt. This team's doing really well, undefeated. These other kids come to the school because of that guy. Hey, we want to be a part of this. Everything's going great. I'm one guy. I'm not getting what I said I'd get. I'm out. And so you could see it from the player side of if you university, the assistant coach, head coach, whoever, you promised this kid this was going to happen, it didn't happen, he has the right to bail. But then all these other lives that get hung in the balance, and lost. It's because stuff isn't under contract, because stuff isn't public knowledge. It's not hey, if you're going to do this, it has to be, everybody has to know what's happening type situation. That's the part that's tricky for me. So my personal opinion is one way, I'm not saying what I'm about to say is the only way. This is one way it could be improved, is if they said this is the cap of what you could get paid, anything above that's illegal. This is the cap. We're not going to have a situation where 18, 19, 20-year-olds are making $4 million, and not sure how to manage it. And there's this big separation in the locker room. Somebody who has no money, somebody's got $4 million. You've been in a college locker room. There's already contentiousness. There's already rifts and challenges. So when one person is what was Tim Tebow back in the day, what was Reggie Bush, that kind of media spotlight, but now the money to go along with it, the ability and the flex to go along with it, versus the kid who's the walk-on, just barely squeaking on the team, no money, no scholarship. Those 2 people in the locker room together, it creates a funky dynamic, So
it creates a rub.
You're never going to be able to make it here.
Yeah.
But if we could bring it a little closer, I'd be in favor of that. That part, putting a cap on what the number would be, and then 2, having it to where if you have an NIL deal, not only does it have to be a public contract, but it has to be entered into documents with your team, and your team has to post it type situation.
Oh, like pro style.
Yeah, and so what gets tricky with that obviously is then you expose kids. Kids get super exposed, but I believe if we're going to teach them, you can get paid and do this, and your name, image, likeness are going to afford your lifestyle. You got to be able to deal with the challenges too. So you got to be able to deal with, people are going to come ask you for money now. Your family's going to try to lean on you. You're going to have people coming out of the woodwork trying to cut through and well, they're only 18, they're only 19. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it too, is my opinion. You can't get paid real adult money, but not deal with the challenges adults deal with. Or we can go back to the way it was. I'm not in favor of the way it was. I believe players should get paid. I believe that if you're putting your body at risk, time at risk, there should be an allocation for that. The same way these players could go work at Subway and make X amount of money for that time. If you're going to treat sports like a job and there's a product that has to be put on the line and other people's jobs hang in the balance, you should be able to get paid for that. I'm very wary of this concept of a player can make more than a coach. Just because of the simple fact that a player may be the product for sure, but I also do go to the concept of the brain is not fully developed until 24, 25, 26 years old. And when you're dealing with that kind of shift, hey, I'm a 19-year-old who makes more than the person instructing me, whether it's said out loud or not, the respect factor there ends up having a kink in it. And it gets really tricky, which is why you see people jump ship so quick. Hey, I'm gonna transfer portal. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go there. Oh, you didn't do what you said. I'm leaving. I'm just throwing everybody is left hanging in the balance. Those are the negative stories. Of course, there's a lot of positive stories to it. People now who are from really impoverished areas, they can get paid and get their families out of those situations quicker. They can start to build more of a portfolio and be able to get more brand deals and more sponsorships and more investment earlier. Right? Those things are the positive stories, but I have to look at both sides, when it comes to it.
I definitely agree with that. It's still, they're still young, but there are players who are 18, 19, 20 that end up just going pro. So then they end up pushing that situation either way. So for me, I'm just like a 20-year-old in the NBA, 20-year-old in college, you're getting paid. Obviously, that relationship on campus is very different than a professional relationship because you guys actually really spend time apart. But in that college situation, you guys are always around each other for sure.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, so transitioning to football, we were just talking about some of the college situations. College football is interesting right now, like I have to be honest and say I really want to see Colorado make the football playoff. That would be so awesome to see, just starting from before Deion Sanders and his team got there, 1-11, transitioning that into last year, start off hot. Everybody wants to see them go down. They do go down. They lose 8 straight or whatever it is. Everybody's naysaying. And then to come into the season and just, because I know what it takes to have like a roster flip, to have a situation where you come in to a program, it's not your roster, it's not your players, and you're trying to change culture from a losing situation to a winning one. Usually you can't snap your fingers and do that. But Deion Sanders and his group have done a really great job making that happen. But not just with the Colorado Buffs, but so much interest and entertainment around college football. Like Georgia was supposed to be a really great team, and they've just been so up and down. Like they have really great games, and they have like down games, and up games and down games. And Alabama the same. Like, taking over from Nick Saban, like a really big win against Georgia, and then go down, and then up, and then lose to Vanderbilt, and then up, and then down. And I watched the Tennessee game against Georgia, personal connection there because I used to work with Nico Imaleva's brother, Matt, and just so that was the first time I watched him play, watching him play against Georgia, and they like come out, take the lead on him. It's back and forth a little bit. It's interesting. If I'm being honest, when I was coming up, like I wasn't really a football fan when I was young. I didn't watch much college at all, and like very little NFL, only the Dallas Cowboys because I'm from Dallas. But I'm really interested now outside of the injuries. I think it's interesting. I'm more in the mind of a quarterback. I've started to work with some quarterbacks in my day job, and so I just have more of a mind of the game. So it's interesting to me. So what's interesting you right now in football, NFL football?
I just think the way that they're setting up the rankings right now, the way they're setting up the rankings is super weird. Like they got people moving up who like aren't playing against good teams. They got people moving down who are playing against really good teams. There are people who have really good strength of schedule who aren't high enough, So the way that they've done the rankings has always been like a point of contention for everyone.
Yes.
Because it's not very clear with the way that your strength of schedule is set up and then how you play against every team. So I think just the issue of like the inconsistencies of like who's in the top 25, who should be in it, who should be out of it, strength of schedule. So that's been the most, like, I guess, annoying part for me.
Yeah, I remember Paul Feinbaum was talking on ESPN with Stephen A. And he was just going off on like the most recent poll that came out and just like, how do you get this? How do you get this? How do you get this? And it does make you wonder, because it's human, human error. But it's like a group of people sitting in a room talking about football, and some things do seem like very common sense, to somebody who doesn't have investment. It's one thing if somebody's like, I'm a Georgia Bulldogs fan, they should be number one, number two, But if you're neutral, like some things do seem a little bit more cut and dry, but sometimes they come out with some interesting things, which makes you question the politics behind the scenes, like who's moving and shaking and who's like getting these things to shift type situation.
There's
but
always politics.
If you had to say right now, who do you think's going to win college football? Who's going to win the national championship?
I like the way Georgia's looking.
Yeah.
Georgia's been looking good. So.
Yeah. It's a trick. I mean, Texas didn't end up being as high level consistently as people thought they were going to be. Georgia's been up and down, but they seem to be catching a little bit of stride right now at the right time. Alabama's a big question mark, but that's the nice part about football. Anything can happen. Like you talk about one game, that's the situation. It's not like NBA playoffs. It's not like MLB playoffs for college football. One game, one quarter can change. If somebody makes a fumble at the wrong time, if somebody ends up, catching a fingertip touchdown at the right time, like things can flip pretty quick.
Anything.
Yeah, things can flip pretty quick. So that's what is really starting to interest me is how much of the game weighs on just play-to-play decision making. Where in other sports it's tough to make. It's easier to make up. In basketball, if you make 2 mistakes in a row, there's a lot of plays, you can make it up. Football, it's like if you're a quarterback and you have 2 mental errors, that could be the game, done. So
that's wild, man. And the funny part is I actually forgot who this guy played for, but I met a guy a few days ago named Don Fielder, and he was a linebacker in the NFL, like back in the day when like Steve Young was in the league, and he was like, bro, I was mowing through people in high school. He said he was like 265.
Wow.
Running a 4.4. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's too much.
I was like, what?
That's too much.
He literally was like, yeah, man, like I went the JUCO route. He was a local guy. And I think he said he went to Kentucky and then went pro. And he was like, bro, like he told me like some wild stories about like how physical the game was, how unsafe the game was. Like I was like, bro, that seriously happened? He was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, man, I was crushing people fast, like hitting the gap. Like he's like, yeah, I played against Herschel Walker. I was like, what?
Wow.
Yeah. And
I'm sure it's like it's such a physical game. You know, seeing it live when you get close to the sidelines and every play, it's just like when guys wrap each other up and like get them to the ground. It's like your body's not really supposed to be hitting the ground like that, and definitely not from other people forcing that movement and people's weight falling on you. And if you could just imagine, like when you're a regular human, how sometimes like your wrist will get caught in a funky position, or your knee, you know, like when somebody's forcing that movement and it's power and energy, like I'm never surprised when they say like, oh, this person's ACL is torn, this person like has a dislocated elbow.
Bro, he told me all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like he was like, bro, I've seen legs, I've seen arms, I've seen neck. I was like, what?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, bro, like had to get a fuse done for life. I was like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I think somebody, I don't know who said it, but they were like, football is the hardest way to get rich.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Hands down.
For sure. And I mean, not for long league is like for real. I mean,
It's
most
true.
people in their 3 years. Most people in their 3 years. So the people who are able to make it longer, you know, they have something different mentally. Like the people who can dominate, like the Aaron Donalds, like who's retired now.
Yeah.
Like, but
By choice.
the people who can do it, like at that level, and just like, I'm the most physical. I'm the biggest dog on the block. Like, you have to be at just a mental space where you're like, no one can stop me.
Yeah.
I'm him. I'm the person. Like I'm getting through. You know, like a Micah Parsons type. You know, who just makes it. It's wild to me. Just how regular humans can be so physical and so dominating and so like that way. It's cool. So Super Bowl opinion. Who's going to the Super Bowl now that we're a couple more weeks through? Chiefs lost their first game to the Bills. Teams are in midseason form. All the people you expected to be good, they're showing their stuff. The Cowboys are not going to the Super Bowl. Who's going to the Super Bowl?
Can we not get into that? Oh my God, it's so bad. It's so bad. What I was really surprised about is actually the Steelers. Mm-hmm. The Steelers beat the Ravens. Mm-hmm. I believe Steelers are like 8-1 now.
They lost last night.
Yeah, they lost last night. I guess 8-2, but. Even getting that win against the Ravens, I was like, there's no way. Yeah. And so, like, the Ravens are, like...
A little shaky
after that
They
loss.
play the Chargers this Monday, I believe.
Yeah.
They're like the shaky ground. The defense hasn't been doing as well as it was at the beginning of the year. But you find that. You find that just like you need leadership. So, Super Bowl, who do you think?
I still think the Chiefs are going to do what they do. I don't know, man. Like, it's mid-season and the teams that are playing really good are playing good, but it's like you still got to be able to finish it out, which is the problem. Like, you could be 8-1, 8-2 right now and then lose like 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm still holding tight to the Chiefs. I think that they're gonna get healthier over time and then still obviously make their run. And obviously, Mahomes, he's got that championship DNA. So right with it.
I'm going with Lions versus Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Lions versus Chiefs. Lions making their first Super Bowl, and maybe Lions versus Chiefs in the Super Bowl. We'll see. Lions got to hang on to that flow that they've been having.
Which is weird because I don't really know who they have.
Well, like, they have. I mean, their quarterback's been doing really well since he got traded from the Rams, Jared Goff. But Amon St. Brown, he's like undercover, like just dog. He just wants it, and he makes plays at the right time. Their defense is really good. Dan Campbell, the coach, has been having them play really fluid, and they've got other position players. Unfortunately, they lost Hutchinson early on to like a broken leg, so that's gonna be a hit. But they've been doing work, so we'll see. I mean, it's tough to bet against the Chiefs. It's tough. Like Patrick Mahomes has not been playing well, but you have to believe like he's gonna pull it together, at the right time. You just do. You look in history and you go, Michael Jordan at times was playing average. He pulls it together at the right time. Tom Brady's playing average, pulls it together at the right time.
Also, like, remember what is it? Eli won 2 championships.
Yeah.
And they were literally like mid
Yeah.
every year that they won, maybe like 10 wins or something, and go out and win the Super Bowl. So it's I don't care like how superstars are playing. If they're playing bad, like they can always turn it on when it's time, just because they're those kind of players.
Right.
So I don't worry about it.
I see it. Okay, volleyball wise, so we're at a space right now in volleyball where there's a lot of movement happening. College is getting closer to the Final Four and NCAA. Well, the NCAA tournament, and
Yeah.
then which will lead to the Final Four. There's been a lot of upsets this year, like a lot of upsets. I mean, all over the country. A lot of 5-setters, a lot of ranked teams losing to unranked teams. What do you think is the reasoning that you're seeing so much of that? Where there was a time in college women's volleyball where it was pretty much you could peg the 4 teams who are going to be in the Final Four at the beginning of the year, and their records would all end up being about 30-1 or 30-2. But now there is a lot more losing happening from better teams. There's a lot more parity, and it creates more interest. So why do you think that is?
I think partially it's popularity in combination with training. I think volleyball training has gone through the roof in general, but also popularity means that you're bringing more people into the sport, which then starts to make it more competitive.
For sure.
And we can say that same thing on the men's side, right? Like when we were coming out of college, we could have went to Grand Canyon University. Remember that? And I remember talking about that with a few other people. We were like, what? Like, Grand Canyon was absolutely terrible when we came out of college. We wouldn't even take them into consideration. Now Grand Canyon is like championship type of squad.
Right.
So it's just getting more popular, and then there's more training. I think there's better training, and then so you're getting more athletic players. And so when it used to be like this, now it's like we're closing the gap because we're more athletic now. And let's say somebody is, or a team's having an amazing day at the service line, or offensively they can't be stopped that day. That team is going to beat one of the best teams in the country. So I think those two things are creating more parity in volleyball on the men's and women's side.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I look at it and I see volleyball is a cool sport in this fact. Every set, the score resets. Where basketball, at the youth level, you could be down by 20 points and a lot of teams will mail it in. They shouldn't, but they do. And football the same. The score stays, when you come back. So it takes a special, mental presence to go, we're down 17 points. We're going to come back and turn this around. Where in volleyball, you could lose 25-7 and it's 0-0. Like, you see matches all the time where a team will lose 25-7 and the next set they win 23-25.
Exactly.
All the time. So that's what creates this consistency of having to have your foot on the gas pedal, where volleyball has started to enter a space. Like you said, there's more people who can compete, so there's less fear factor. There's less of this like, oh, we're going to play Stanford, so we're going to get crushed. Or we're going to go play Texas, so we're going to get crushed. Like, Texas lost 2 weeks ago, and I was looking on the thing and going, Texas was supposed to be like 1 or 2 in the country, and I think they have a bunch of losses, at this point. So you go, and it's like, man, a team who's not even ranked can put themselves in the ranking, and all of a sudden, like, they're up. And when they're up, they're up. So when I look at women's volleyball, it's a really cool thing because, like you said, we're starting to build this more of a grassroots type situation where people can start younger, people can get serious younger. And for a lot of people, they'll go to this angle of, oh, it's too serious. And I go, any other high-level sports like that. Kids who are serious about going to the NBA, you see them going serious with training when they're 11 and 12. People who are serious about going to the NFL, they're out, like, serious in Pop Warner. Like, it's regimented. No, you're going out in the backyard, you're going to do this routine. Then we're going to the park. We're going to throw this many balls. We're going to do this.
I think even adding on to that, what I am starting to notice, which was different than before, is you're noticing a lot of like former pro athletes, kids are playing. Which is completely different. Like when we were playing, every once in a while, we'd be like, oh, okay, like such and such who used to play in the NBA, their daughter's playing, right? Or like now I'm starting to see, and we're starting to see that like we even train kids who like have pro athlete parents or like actors and stuff like that. So there's more like people of upper echelon who have their daughters and sons who are playing, and obviously they have unlimited funds to train them.
Right.
So I'm starting to see that. So I think even that part is adding more to the parity of the game
For sure.
than it used to be.
For sure, 100%. So more athletes, more people willing to put in the time and investment into it. And so speaking of that, now you have it trickling down to the youth. So LOVB, also known as Love, the organization, the Federation Foundation, has been putting a lot of efforts towards building a pro league, building the space below the pro leagues, trying to get people to get in concert together and work together as opposed to like all these little individual companies. Now they're trying to build more like everything's happening like this.
Under one roof.
And they've done a great job. You know, they've gotten a lot of funding, got a lot of branding, and just secured $100 million for youth sports to be able to use. So now you literally have clubs merging. And they're going to start out having these Love volleyball teams like Mizuno Long Beach, which is a really historical club here in Southern California, and SCVC, their 18s team, is coming together this year to make like the first Love volleyball team out here in Southern California. They just got all their gear, all their branding. I trained a couple athletes who are on that team, and it's an exciting time for them. So anybody who's out there wanting to get into volleyball, wanting to put their time and energy behind it, it's a great time. Like it's a growing sport, and it's not how it was before where the growth was just a reach. Now it's getting onto Sports Center more often. It's getting out in front of the eye. Social media is starting to pop. It's got influencers. It's got people who are doing it at a high level. The Madison Skinners of the world, the Zoflex of the world. Like people like this are starting to actually have followings and people who want to see what they're doing. And it's big. So volleyball, it's a cool time. So some of the things that people get to watch when they get to watch volleyball, let's list some of those. So from an offensive standpoint, people get to see a lot of high jumping, hard hitting, different angles, different ranges on the game. People get to see setters similar to a quarterback, kind of running an offense and making decisions, trying to engage in trickery and deception. And then from a defensive standpoint, just like you would see interceptions in football, you see digs and you see highlight plays like that. Just like you would in basketball, see big time blocks and stuffs. You see that in volleyball. So the women's game is really exciting because there's less missed serves than there are in the men's game, and there's a lot more rallies. The reason the men's game is really exciting is because of the power and the athleticism, the jumping, the fluidity, the speed. So it's like pick your poison with the games. But volleyball is a great sport right now to watch on the indoor side, on the beach side, and a great sport to be a part of. So you and I are involved in it,
no doubt.
And the people who are out there who wanna see something exciting, like they got to lobby and push for volleyball to get in the media space more often. And the coolest part that I see right now is TV and cable used to command all the space and time and attention on television, but now that we have streaming, anybody can play their shot. Pickleball can play their shot, golf can play their shot, tennis can play their shot. But volleyball now, there's more opportunities to watch it and see it because you can stream it when it's on, as opposed to before when it's just like if you're not NBA, NFL, or MLB, hockey, you're not getting on. And now anybody can play their shot. So that's one thing I really do like about the transition of volleyball right now.
And everything is viewership. You got to get eyes on it. All the college teams or leagues now have their own network, so now you can see everything. And then even in some cases, you're seeing it on regular TV now. Right? You're seeing high-level college games on TV, and you're starting to get more fans that are coming out. I believe the volleyball game that happened in the football stadium.
Oh, yeah.
Most attendance.
Yeah, I mean, they have the Nebraska stuff that's happening. Iowa's been doing some stuff like that. And then now they're doing it at the high school. There's two kids who I work with over here who just, Campbell Hall played, I'm not even sure who they played, but Campbell Hall played somebody outside here. Two girls that train, Maya Harris and Layla Williams, who's Candace Parker's daughter. Shout out to them. Like, they ended up having a game outside, right here at the high school level.
Seriously?
Yeah, this year. They did right before Dig Pink happened, they had an outside game. Campbell Hall, I need to remember who they played. But, these kids are getting some cool opportunities, man. They were doing it, like you said, at SoFi. I'm just talking about they did that club situation. They had some club teams over there. They had Mizuno and Surfside. And they had some teams over there.
About that. They were like, it was amazing. Like, it was wide open.
Yeah.
I was like, that's sick.
Yeah, if they can start getting these kids used to and acclimated to those big stages, big arenas, that's big time, Because people used to be playing in, like, these church gyms, like little small tuck church gyms,
Back in the day, before you get that popularity, like I said before, I think we're going to be on a slow growth, very similar to the way MLS was. But I think once we take off, they're not going to have a choice. There's going to be a lot of indoor women's volleyball. And once again, it's clear that on the beach side, it's gotten way more competitive than it used to be.
For sure.
And
I
it
mean,
has
better
to.
athletes,
Yeah.
kids is training for it. When beach first started happening, it was indoor kids, trying to look for a second opportunity on
Yeah.
the beach, And now these kids, it's beach kids, And then it was a phase where it was, okay, the small beachy kids who can't really do it 6 rotations at indoor.
Yeah.
But now there's like physical kids who are like, I just prefer beach more,
You remember how it was for us. Like, we played against a lot of people who didn't really play indoor.
Right.
They were like, oh yeah, like, we just never really did indoor, and we just came out and started playing beach, and we got good at beach.
Right.
So now it's like both.
Well, that's the thing. You see with the best players on the men's side, it's always been that way. Like, outside of the Karch-Garais of the world, you look at Phil Dahlhauser, never played real, like, serious indoor. He became the best. You look at, like a Stafford Slick, remember? Like, never really, like, an indoor guy. You look at, like, some of the better players. If you look at Andy Mole, who does play some indoor, but, like, they get most of their time is spent on the beach.
Yeah.
And they do it from that way. Sean Rosenthal, never really an indoor guy, but just Jay Gibb, never an indoor guy. Because those guys committed right away to learning the beach game because it's a different sport. So now you have these girls who are doing it at the collegiate level, and it used to just be, your big name schools, USC, UCLA, they got the teams. But now you got Florida State's in the mix, Tulane's in the mix. Anybody can win. Well, that's not true. SC's just four-peated. But outside of SC, apparently, anybody can win. Shout out to Dame Bland, my guy. Just four-peated USC, big time. But outside of USC, anybody can win.
Well, once again, the parity piece.
Anybody can take second. Anybody can take second place. So, yeah, I mean, with volleyball, it's a cool space to be in right now. And that's going to transition us to guess the lyrics. So last time I ended up giving some lyrics for KJ to try to guess, and he ended up getting one of them correct with the Migos. And now it's my turn to go into the gauntlet and listen. So he's going to give me some lyrics, and I'm going to see if I can guess the artist and maybe the song.
I got one for you. This should be good. Oh, man. Okay, I got 2 lyrics for you here. All right. Pull up, drop top with a Ida. 2-seater.
That's it? That's all I get? Can I
I
get the
said
next
you
line?
got 2 lines.
Say it one more time.
Pull up, drop top with a Ida. 2-seater.
Oh, gosh. That's not coming to me. I don't know. Who is that? I'll have to guess.
I need an artist. Give me at least some artist.
Pull up, drop top, two-seater. Gosh darn it. Rich the Kid.
It's Rich.
Rich the Kid.
It's Rich the Kid.
Rich the Kid. I was like, it's coming to me a little bit.
I was like, when it comes, it's gonna come.
Drop top with Ida, two-seater. Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah,
Rich the Kid.
It's Rich the Kid, New Freezer.
Yeah.
I said, look, I got one good for you, but I was like, you're gonna have to work that one out. You gotta like put it together and flow it.
I made it happen. I'm proud of myself.
So that's the one I got. I don't have 2 for that.
Okay.
I got one for
Okay. All right, man. Yes, let's go. Success. Made it happen. Love it. I wonder if anybody out there watching this knew who that was. That was a reach for me, man. Good guess, Chris P. Austin.
There's only 2 lines, but you gotta run.
I had to hear it. Like that's so his like. Drop top with the E, two-seater.
Yeah.
Yes, I could hear it. Okay. So transitioning, business for youth. So what we want to talk about today on this was this concept, right, of in school, kids just realistically, they're not taught about the tax game, There's nobody that I know who goes to school and they learn about taxes.
Nope.
Nobody's there saying, hey, this is when you got to pay them. And if you have this type of business, this is when you got to pay them. This is how you got to pay them. This is who you pay them to. And this is where you pay them. Nobody's doing that. That's something you got to learn either on your own or you make the mistakes of getting fined and then you learn it after that. So
you get fined, you get audited.
Exactly. So basically, we want to help the youth start to set themselves up for better decision making later. You can call it what you want. You can call it financial freedom. You can call it whatever you'd like. But realistically, it's like you want to set up a situation where you could do what you want later, right? So for some people, that is, they want to make buku amounts of money and be able to live this luxurious lifestyle. And there's some people who want to make buku amounts of money and not do much with it. And there's some people who don't really need that much money. They just want to be able to live a certain lifestyle. You know, I want to be able to live in this type of house in this city, be able to go bowling when I want, be able to go to the market when I want. And that's it. So regardless of what your scenario is, the primary thing, in my opinion, that you should be looking for is a lack of debt. You should be trying to find out a situation where you can have less debt, because less debt creates more opportunity for you. The less you have to pay off to somebody else, the more you can keep for yourself, right?
Exactly.
So if you are a youth, you know, whether you choose that I want to open my own lemonade stand, or I want to go work at the local In-N-Out burger, like myself, you know, that's my example, or I want to go into business with my family, or do some construction on the side, or babysit, or whatever it is. The primary thing you want to start to understand is, what does your life cost right now? So you might not even be a person who's paying for your own life. That's okay. You need to understand what your life costs. That's how you start to get the mentality for what you're going to need later. So let's take two scenarios. Let's say there's a kid whose parents make them add money to the house. Hey, you got to get a job. You got to bring in some money. You want to be able to play sports. You want to be able to go out and eat. You want to be able to go to the movie theater. You got to bring some money in to be able to do that. Or there's the family who's like, no, your job isn't to do those things until you're of whatever age. I'm going to take care of all those things for you and pay it, whether it's just paying or for an allowance. Either way, you want to start to understand, what does that cost to live my lifestyle? I want to, on a weekly basis, I want to have one event that I can go out with my friends. That's going to cost $40 all in all. If I pay for my movie ticket, somewhere between $13 and $18 maybe. I want some popcorn. I want to eat after that. I want the gas to get over there. Call it $40. Maybe in some places it's $50 or $60. Call it $40. And during the week, you know, I eat this much. In the mornings, I make food at home. Those grocery bills cost this much for myself. I eat lunch out and I eat dinner half and half. Half the time I cook at home, half the time I eat out. Okay, boom. And then from there you go, all right, I need to make sure I allocate all the sections of my life, right? There's my food, there's my entertainment, there's my housing, there's my car, there's my ancillary bills, subscriptions. If I'm like, I want Spotify, I want Netflix, whatever, a video game. Okay, so you get all this stuff together and you go, whether I'm paying for it or not right now, I need to know how much it costs. It costs this much. All right, now I have to set up a situation where I understand, how do I get to that number on a percentage? And that percentage means, if I don't want to live check to check as an adult, I can't put myself in a situation where that number that I just calculated equals my check. Like, it has to be a percentage. It has to be
equals to
$0. It's like it has to be a percentage. So, and this is when you're younger, you can play with it a little bit. As you're older, I would recommend very specific percentages. When you're younger, you might go, okay, I want 50% of what I make to be that. I want 70%. I want 30%. Okay, it's got to be a percentage though, because this is what has to start to happen with the other percentage. The other percentage has to start to be thought about in reference to saving. Saving is the second most important word outside of debt. Debt is the number one word you need to get rid of out of your vocabulary. And then you want to start to think about savings. So savings, it doesn't have to be all grandiose when you're a kid in terms of, well, I need emergency savings and kid savings and college savings and this and that. It doesn't have to be grandiose. Just save one little account. I need to start to understand what saving looks like and the habit of saving. Because saving is a habit, right?
Consistency.
It's like, I got to start to go, I'm going to allocate $10 a month. Hopefully, you can get that going up pretty quick to $10 every 2 weeks, $10 every week, $40 a month. Boom. Okay, I'm starting to put that aside and I don't touch it. I don't start to, well, I want that new video game. I want those new Jordans. Well, I want that ice cream. I'm going to take this girl on a date. No. It doesn't get touched. Like, you got to get in that habit where I go, I don't look at this, I don't see it. That's retirement in my mind. Like, I'm not touching that. And then you go, okay, how is this flowing for me? Can I keep this consistent? Could I up this? How much right now am I working to have to do this? Do I want to work more than I'm working right now to be able to up that? Do I want to work less? Do I not need to up that? Like, getting that thing right there primary, if I was to ask you, how many youth out of 10 do you think are doing something similar to
that? One?
1 to none, right?
1 to none. 1 to 0?
Yeah, and so that right there, that answer is why you see there's so many people in debt, why you see there's so many people who have hardship in terms of finances, and why you see so many people end up having to live more check to check. It's like, that discipline is like anything. We talk about sports, a lot on this podcast, and for somebody to be good at sports, you don't get to start when you're 21 and expect to be good.
Yeah.
It's not how it works. You have to start. You don't have to start when you're 10.
Yeah.
You have to start, though, at a requisite age where you can build habits while your brain is still developing.
Yeah.
So it's the same concept for anything. If you really want to be good, you have to start the development early.
And I think the tough part is a lot of parents don't know about this. And so I've had a ton of conversations, and you probably have too, with people who are around our age, a few years younger, even a few years older, and they're like, yeah, my finances are in complete disarray. Or when I grew up, my parents had this mindset about money. We were always check. We were always spending money, or we always had debt, or my parents always argued about money. So because of that, the financial relationship and foundation was never really built. And if it was a foundation, it was a foundation built on sand, right? So it's generally what your parents are talking about. And then most of the time, that brings it into your life, which is why I think so many people are in debt and don't have savings and don't invest and aren't where they need to be financially. And so I think for us, we ended up having some parents who actually talked about it when we were kids. I remember having a conversation with my dad when I was 7.
Yeah.
About nah, you got 10, put 5 away.
Yeah.
That type of conversation, which I don't think most people have had that conversation. And then on top of that, once again, you talk about at the city level, at the state level, at the national level. Last time I checked, they're almost all in debt. And then that they're definitely not about to implement any personal finance, management, taxes, running businesses, being self-employed. They're not implementing any of that into the school system, and it's by design.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? 100%.
100%, because a lot of things are being run off of the tax money that gets paid. So if you start getting educated on how to get your taxes down, that's less money for people to start to put towards things that they feel like require taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So take it this way. The reason that there's credit cards, people think it's because you just want to be able to swipe something easy and not have to carry cash. It's the credit card game is a game. It's like anything else. The benefit, well, if I get a credit card, I'm going to rack up these points and I'll get free airline flights. It's okay, well, you're not also allocating for the 75% of people who end up getting extra credit card fees because they leave money on there. Mm-hmm. The 85% of people who have at least one dock on their credit card for some kind of mishap or happenstance, or their bank account going overdraft or something like that. And you're also not allocating for the concept that most credit cards that are doing something real good for you have an annual fee.
Exactly.
Those things. So if you look at the percentages on that, you go, all right, so what you're telling me is if I, Kris Austin, have $5, this $5 I've already paid taxes on because it came in as income or whatever the case, $5. Now I'm going to give it to you and pay taxes to the business to give it to you. Mm-hmm. That business is going to take it and they are going to pay taxes on it, and then they're going to hand it off to somebody else who's going to pay taxes on it, who's going to pay taxes on it, who's going to pay taxes on it. So the tax game is just raking. Well, every individual, as money changes hands, just adds a little bit more tax. It's the same. Everything. Money that's already been taxed is getting taxed again, it's getting taxed again, it's getting taxed again. Where if we're back in the day going off cash, and you say, I have $5, and I hand you $5, there's no tax on that, and there's nobody keeping record of that. Yeah. And then you hand somebody else that $5, there's no tax on that, there's nobody keeping record. And money just changes hands, and everybody stays, where it is type situation. So they were like, how can we implement a situation where we can start bringing more in with us having to do less? And that's the tax game. So everything. What I'm not sitting here saying to people is, well, you need to go out and find an all cash situation. That's pretty hard to get in this day and age. So what you have to try to make happen is you have to start to understand how you can flip that script and go, let me get things coming in like the government nonstop. You have to find a situation where you can go, all right, so the government has figured it out and they've showed me the blueprint. If I'm smart enough to watch it, I can go, I could do that too at a smaller scale. Yeah. So I can get what I do here to also add to there, to there, to there. So if I get involved, you talk about this often, you only buy stocks that have dividends. I was looking at my dividend stocks yesterday, and there's a list of them. It goes, okay, in August, you receive this dividend from this. From Chevron, you get this dividend here. From Google, you get this dividend here. From Apple, you get this dividend here. Boom, 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 boom. And if you add it all together, you go, all right, that amount right there What do you do with it? You go waste it, spend it, pay taxes on it, reinvest it, and let it go compound that way. And then if you can get something like that to reinvest, and then put it into something like a Roth IRA that keeps you tax free in that situation, you will never pay taxes on that. That's like a small example. You can only do that up to a certain amount, right?
Yeah.
But even that little right there is going to save you. And that needs to start to be the hunt and the concept for people. It's like, how can I save myself? The same way these people will use coupons and they'll put themselves in a situation where they're searching the internet for like a code to use at Dick's Sporting Goods or Walmart. You got to use that in your daily life and go, how can I get myself a situation where I'm getting this thing for discount if it's not hurting somebody else? Right? Like, I'm not intruding on somebody else's business and asking them for them to devalue themselves. I'm not asking somebody else to like take a hit here. I'm just going, all right, something that's readily available to all people. How can I take advantage of that?
And I think it's just the fear. I think, and the funny part is like, you not taking the risk is technically the risk, right? So you not taking the risk to buy real estate is a risk. You not taking the risk to invest in the stock market is the risk, or you not taking the risk to either start the business or invest in the business is the risk, because once again, those are the 3 ways that you can actually get rich. Last time I checked, there's no other way that you can get rich. And so I believe it's like numbers like 50% or something like that of the United States does not actually invest in the stock market, like no stocks whatsoever. And I think it said like 80 to 90% of like the wealthiest people, maybe the top 10%, most of their assets are in stocks. And so there's that conversation of, like, should I invest? I'm afraid to invest. I saw the stock market go up. Like, and I saw, like, there's a post, somebody was saying, like, everybody buys in when it's on the way up, and then it crashes, and then they say it's a scam, and they sell all their shares, and then they, like, repeat it again at some point in their lives. And it's like, no, you must get in it, you must commit, and you must stay in it. That's the only way that you can really benefit. And most people don't understand that. And so if you want a certain thing, once again, it requires discipline, it requires consistency. You got to continue to do it. And I think the fear of it, especially with the stock market, I know so many people who are afraid of the stock market. They're like, man, as soon as I buy it, it's going to go down, right? And I'm like, well, what's your goal, right? And they're like, oh, like, I want to get in and I want to make money. I'm like, yeah, but the money is made over time. And I was like, unless you're really good at picking stocks, like, the money is made over time. It's not made right now. And so I think more people like use the stock market as get rich quick rather than like get rich over time.
100%. So ultimately the lesson from this is, as soon as you can, you want to start to train the habit. You can't get involved in the stock market if you don't have extra money to put in the stock market. You can't have extra money to put in the stock market if you don't have a way to keep yourself out of debt and be able to add extra money. You can't keep yourself out of debt and add extra money if you don't have good habits that are going to create that consistently. So as soon as you can start, whether you're a person who's watching this at 55 years old, if you're watching this at 35 years old, 25 years old, 15, or even 10, you want to get yourself set up where you're like I said, how much does my life cost? I need to know that at all times. How much does my life cost? And then how can I make that a percentage of what I make? Start there, and then you start to teach yourself how to save. And you can start off with $10 a month. Anybody can make $10 a month. Anybody, a 5-year-old can make $10 a month. Like, set up your lemonade stand. I'm charging 50 cents a cup, and you're going to get at least 20 customers if you do it over 4 weekends. Like, anybody can make $10 a month. Start with $10 a month. Learn how to multiply that into $20 a month, $30 a month, $40 a month. And then you just build. Some people have the fortune to be able to build every week. They could shift that every week. Some people, it takes 6 months before they have to build. But you have to just start the habit and build the consistency. If you could do that, you're going to live a much more happy life for sure. And you're going to be able to do what you want to do.
Lifestyle game.
100%.
Control your lifestyle.
All right, so we'll close with this. 2024, we're in this year. It's been passing fast, man. We're already in the end of November. We got one more month after November hits. Where do you feel like things are going at the end of 2024? We have a new president that's going to come in 2025. We've got shifts that are happening with the interest rates, the stock markets, inflation, things around the country, between the natural disasters like hurricanes happening in Florida and the wildfires happening in California. Where are we going in 2024?
2024 into 2025 is about to be very interesting. Because really interesting. As soon as the president-elect came into office or was elected, what, Bitcoin either hit 100K or it's literally about to hit 100K.
Yeah.
And people have been talking about Bitcoin hitting that for so long, and
Yeah.
nobody believed it, and now it's there.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, honestly. Like, to tell everybody here the truth, I dabbled in crypto, like when it first came out, just like put little sprinkles
Yeah.
in to test it out, and from what I went in, it shot down,
Yeah.
and I held. I just
Yeah.
waited on it, and I looked yesterday, and it's back to the exact amount that I originally put in, and I'm like, should I hold or should I just get out even?
yeah,
That's my situation, but it's interesting. It's very
I don't
interesting to see it.
know. The frustrating part about crypto is that like you actually have to learn how to hold it,
Yeah.
because you can lose it if it's like with somebody else, if it's with like a crypto broker,
for
right?
sure.
It's not like other assets where like if you're with a stock brokerage or if you're with a bank, like stuff goes bad, you get your money back.
Uh-huh.
It's like no. If somebody breaks into the crypto holders company, right,
Uh-huh.
like a Kraken
Uh-huh.
or a Coinbase, like you lose that entire thing. So
Yeah.
it's more of it is like understanding like, am I gonna buy a cold storage so then like I can take my crypto off and I have it,
Uh-huh.
and then pray that I don't get locked out of my cold storage,
Right.
because that's also happened to people.
Right.
People have bought Bitcoin at $50 or $100 a share, and they got locked out of their cold storage because you can only put in a certain amount of codes before it locks forever.
Right.
Because they know people will try to go into it.
Right.
So that's the only issue. But aside from that, like, I think the economy is going to go up. Once again, I believe S&P has gone up like 20, 30%.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just going to continue, but I think people just need to understand that there's going to be ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
And like most people can't deal with the downside.
Right.
So I think things are going to get better. I think it's going to drop a little bit and then they're going to get better. I think eventually the interest rates will start to drop. I don't know if inflation is going to drop, to be honest. I think inflation is going to hold. And then it's your choice of what you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
And once again, we were talking about this. This is now a 6 day a week, like working
Mm-hmm.
type of economy.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a 4 day or a 5 day anymore unless you do something really good. You're really good at something, you get paid well, but you got to work 6 or 7 days to like have a life that you want financially and not to struggle.
For
So
sure.
that's what I'm looking forward to in 2025. What about
Okay.
you?
I mean, for me, I'm real into the three things right now: business, relationship, sports. You know, as I look at the business standpoint, I'm heavily involved in trying to enrich the lives of youth. Just looking at youth and trying to teach mentality lessons. You know, get them to get that self-belief concept, athleticism, good habits to help them build. Relationships, just want to keep everything fluid right now, keep it smooth, smiles, you know, good feelings. And then, but also with discipline with that and just improvement.
Yeah.
And then in sports, I think just sports are at such a great space in terms of the athleticism. I don't think college sports are in a great space in terms of the business management of it.
Yeah.
And like, I worry about the game if you start seeing some of the more historical coaches leaving and you start seeing people with really like strong, you know, moral, I want to help these kids values leaving. It's like, that's not so good for college sports. But in terms of the athleticism and the product and like people's ability, I don't think sports has been in a better place ever in history.
Without
It's just like
question.
every sport. It's like fast, it's strong, it's explosive, it's electric. Like people can get competitive, you know, which I really love. So I'm optimistic about that part. But just making sure that I take the opportunities to help educate, making sure I take the opportunities to learn, and more than anything, just trying to become my best. Yeah, that's what it
Love
is.
it.
All right, so if you want to check out more of this, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell. Business, Relationship, Sports, CA and KJ. Find it on YouTube. Until next time.
Have a good one.